the cursed graveyard. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale glow over the desolate landscape as I made my way through the crumbling gates of the old graveyard. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the sound of my footsteps echoed eerily against the silent tombstones that loomed like silent sentinels in the darkness. As I ventured deeper into the heart of the graveyard, a sense of unease settled over me, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end as though warning me of some unseen danger lurking in the shadows. But I pressed on, my curiosity driving me forward even as my instincts screamed at me to turn back. Suddenly, a movement caught my eye, a flicker of movement amidst the gravestones, like a shadow shifting in the darkness. My heart skipped a beat as I peered into the gloom, straining to catch another glimpse of whatever had caught my attention. But there was nothing there, only the silent graves and the whispering wind that sighed through the trees. Shaking off my unease, I continued on my path, my footsteps echoing loudly in the stillness of the night. But as I rounded a corner, I stumbled upon something that sent a chill down my spine, a freshly dug grave, its earth still loose and unsettled, as though something had clawed its way free from the depths below. My heart pounding in my chest, I approached the open grave cautiously, my mind reeling with 1,000 questions. What could have caused such a disturbance in this sacred ground? And more importantly, what had emerged from the depths below? With trembling hands, I reached out and peered into the darkness of the open grave, my eyes widening in horror at what lay within. There, lying amidst the dirt and decay, was a figure, or what remained of one, its skin pallid and rotting, its eyes empty and devoid of life. I recoiled in shock, stumbling backward in horror as the realization dawned on me. I was standing face to face with the undead. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of the impossible sight before me, but there was no denying the truth. The dead had risen, and they walked among us once more. As I stood frozen in fear, the figure stirred, its empty eyes fixing on me with a hunger that sent a shiver down my spine. With a guttural moan, it reached out toward me, its fingers curling into claws as it dragged itself from the confines of the grave. With a cry of terror, I turned and fled, my footsteps echoing loudly in the silence of the night as I raced through the graveyard, the sound of pursuit echoing in my ears. But no matter how fast I ran, I could not escape the feeling that I was being followed, that the shadows themselves were reaching out to claim me. As I fled through the darkened streets, the echo of my own footsteps pounding in my ears, I knew that I could not outrun the undead forever. They were everywhere, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. With each passing moment, the sense of dread that had settled over the town grew stronger, casting a pall of fear and uncertainty over everything. The streets were deserted now, the once bustling town reduced to a ghostly echo of its former self. As I stumbled through the darkness, I knew that I had to find a way to stop the undead before it was too late. But how could I hope to defeat an enemy that could not be killed? The very thought sent a chill down my spine, filling me with a sense of hopelessness that threatened to consume me. But then, just as I was beginning to lose all hope, I stumbled upon an ancient tome hidden away in the dusty shelves of an old bookstore. Its pages were yellowed with age, its leather binding cracked and worn, but as I flipped through its pages, I knew that I had found the key to defeating the undead once and for all. With a newfound sense of purpose, I set out to uncover the secrets hidden within the tome, poring over its pages late into the night as I searched for a way to banish the darkness that had taken hold of our town. And then, at last, I found it, a ritual that promised to banish the undead back to the depths from whence they came. With a sense of grim determination, I set out to gather the ingredients needed to perform the ritual, knowing that the fate of the town, and perhaps the world itself, rested on my shoulders. Armed with the knowledge I had gleaned from the ancient tome, I set out to perform the ritual that would banish the undead once and for all. With each step I took, the sense of dread that hung over the town grew stronger, but I refused to let fear hold me back. I was determined to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. As I made my way through the deserted streets, I could feel the eyes of the undead upon me, their gaze following my every move with a hunger that sent a shiver down my spine. But I pressed on, my resolve unwavering, until at last I reached the town square where the ritual was to take place. With a sense of trepidation, I began to gather the ingredients needed for the ritual, the ancient words of power echoing in my mind as I recited them aloud. The air crackled with energy, and I could feel the very ground beneath my feet tremble as the ritual took hold. But as I reached the climax of the ritual, disaster struck. A dark cloud swept across the sky, blotting out the moon and plunging the town into darkness. The ground shook violently beneath me, and I could hear the anguished cries of the undead as they rose, many more from their graves, stronger and more powerful than ever before. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that the ritual had failed, and that the town was doomed to be consumed by the undead horde. As the creatures closed in around me, their eyes glowing with hunger, I knew that there was no hope left for me or for anyone else. And so, as the darkness descended and the screams of the damned filled the air, I closed my eyes and awaited my fate, knowing that I had failed in my quest to save the town from the horrors that lurked within the shadows. Story 2. The Forbidden Ritual. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate landscape as I stood before the crumbling ruins of the abandoned church. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay, and a sense of foreboding hung thick in the air as I prepared to perform the forbidden ritual that would summon forth the spirits of the dead. With trembling hands, I gathered the necessary ingredients, candles, salt, and the ancient tome that contained the incantation, and arranged them in a circle around me. The darkness seemed to press in on all sides, its suffocating weight bearing down on me as I lit the candles and began to recite the words that would open the gateway between the worlds of the living and the dead. As the final syllables left my lips, the air grew still, the silence broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. And then, with a sudden rush of wind, the earth began to tremble beneath my feet, and I knew that I had succeeded. The spirits had heard my call, and they were coming. A chill wind swept through the dilapidated church, extinguishing the candles and plunging the chamber into darkness. I stood frozen in fear, my heart pounding in my chest as the shadows seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing in the blackness like living things. From the depths of the darkness, a low, guttural moan echoed through the chamber. I could feel the presence of the spirits all around me, their cold, lifeless eyes boring into my soul with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I reached for the flashlight at my side and flicked it on, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. But as the light swept across the room, I saw that I was not alone. The spirits of the dead stood before me, their spectral forms hovering just beyond the reach of the light. I could hear their whispers in the darkness, their voices filled with anger and resentment, and I knew that I had unleashed something far more powerful than I had ever imagined. The spirits hungered for revenge, and they would stop at nothing to claim the souls of the living. With a sense of growing dread, I realized that I had made a grave mistake. The ritual had not gone as planned, and now I was faced with the consequences of my actions. The spirits were growing stronger by the moment, their dark energy filling the chamber like a suffocating fog. As the spirits closed in around me, I felt a wave of panic wash over me, threatening to consume my very sanity. I knew that I had to escape, but the darkness seemed to stretch on forever, its labyrinthine corridors twisting and turning in on themselves like a nightmare come to life. With every step I took, the whispers grew louder, their voices filling my mind with thoughts of despair and hopelessness. I could feel the darkness closing in around me, its cold, clammy fingers reaching out to drag me down into the abyss. But still, I pressed on, driven by a desperate need to escape the clutches of the spirits that hunted me. I could hear their laughter echoing in the darkness, mocking me with their cruel, taunting words. And then, just when I thought that all hope was lost, I stumbled upon a door hidden at the end of a narrow hallway. With a surge of adrenaline, I threw open the door and stepped into the room beyond, praying that it would offer some respite from the horrors that pursued me. But as I entered the room, I realized that I had made a terrible mistake. The chamber was filled with the tortured souls of the dead, their eyes empty and their faces twisted in agony. I could feel their despair weighing heavily on my soul, dragging me down into the depths of madness. With a scream of terror, I turned and fled from the room, racing through the twisting corridors of the church. But no matter how fast I ran, I could not escape the clutches of the spirits that hunted me, their relentless pursuit driving me ever closer to the brink of insanity. As I stumbled through the darkness, my mind reeling with fear and despair, I knew that I had reached the end of my rope. The spirits had me cornered, their malevolent presence closing in on me from all sides, and I knew that there was no escape. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that I had only one option left: to confront the darkness head-on and pray that somehow, against all odds, I would emerge victorious. Summoning every last ounce of courage within me, I turned to face the spirits, my heart pounding in my chest as I prepared to make my final stand. The darkness seemed to swirl around me, its tendrils reaching out to ensnare me in its grasp, but still, I stood my ground, refusing to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. And then, with a sudden burst of clarity, I understood: the key to defeating the darkness lay not in fighting against it, but in embracing it, in harnessing its power and using it to my advantage. But as I reached out to the spirits, something went terribly wrong. Instead of lending me their strength, they turned on me, their voices rising in a massive rage as they unleashed their full fury upon me. With a scream of agony, I felt their dark energy enveloping me, tearing at my flesh and rending my soul asunder. And as darkness closed in around me, I knew that I had failed, that I had been consumed by the very darkness I had sought to defeat. The end. Subscribe for more. Thank you.